everyone, welcome back to the Analyst by Vajiram and Ravi, dated 2nd November 2025. Today again we will be discussing some important topics that has appeared in today's The Hindu and the Indian Express newspapers, which are very relevant for your examination. In the initial two articles, we have included two mains practice questions which will be highly useful for your upcoming mains examination. So in our first topic, we will discuss the issue of poverty in India, focusing on the measurement criteria, state level achievements, policy interventions and the socio-economic drivers enabling poverty reduction. After that, in our second topic, we'll explore the rising incidence of stampedes in India, analyzing key causes and the need for robust safety protocols and public awareness. After that, in our simplified section, we'll take up 5 articles and we'll try to explain them in simplest language possible to enrich your understanding of the newspapers. Additionally, we have also incorporated some prelims pointers which is going to be very crucial for your upcoming prelims and mains examinations. So have a look on them also and stay tuned. So let's start with the first topic, that is first extreme poverty free state. The context of this topic is that on November 1st, on account of Kerala Day celebrations, the Chief Minister of Kerala declared that the state has eradicated extreme poverty, making it the first state in the country to achieve the feat. And this particular topic is related to your GS paper 2, poverty, issues relating to poverty and hunger, as well as syllabus of your GS paper 3, growth and development. So what exactly is a poverty? It is a state or condition where the community or the people do not have even the bare minimum of financial resources to actually achieve the minimum standard of living. It can be categorized into absolute poverty, where people lack even the basic needs like food, clothing and shelter. And then we have the relative poverty, where the poverty is compared to the average standard of living in that society. For example, let's suppose there is a society where everyone is earning 100 rupees. So the people who will be earning less than 100 rupees will be categorized as relatively poor. Then we have the situational poverty, which is caused by the sudden crisis like the job loss, disaster, illness, conflict, and it is often temporary in nature. For example, if the COVID-19 pandemic came, which caused the economic instability, that also led to job losses. So the people who lost their jobs temporarily due to the pandemic, or if the disasters like cyclone, earthquake, etc. that comes and that leads to job losses or economic instability, in that case we can say that that is the case of the situational poverty. Then we have the generational poverty, where the poverty is passed on across generations. For example, the people who will be taking birth into a poor family, they will often remain trapped due to the limited access of educational, health or the other facilities. For example, let's suppose there is a child who is growing up in poverty because he was born in a poor family. Now, because of the disadvantaged position in which he or she is, he will not have the proper resources based on which he can access good educational facilities, better health facilities or the better skill improvement facilities. And that is the reason he will often struggle to get a proper job. And again, he will fail to escape the poverty cycle, and he will also be part of the next family, that is the person who was born in that family after marrying, that whatever the age that he or she attained. After marrying, that again the family will be in the poor condition, because the child will not have the proper resources based on which he can get the educational and the skill facilities. And with this diagram also you can understand the vicious cycle of poverty. For example, the people who are poor, they do not have the proper income, or the low income people, they will have the low level of savings, because whatever the minimum amount or the basic resources that they will be having, that will be spended on the fulfilling the basic needs, and that is the reason they will have the low level of savings. But we also need to understand that whatever the savings that me and you are doing, that we are depositing in the banks are lending certain amount of that savings to the corporates, to the businesses, and that is leading to investment in the economy. When the savings are low, obviously it may also lead to low level of investment, and that will also lead to low economic growth. Why? Because when we say the economic growth rate, we generally talks about the real GDP growth rate. What is GDP? It is the total monetary value of all the goods and services that are produced in the domestic territory during a financial year. Now, when we say GDP, it can be calculated based on 3 methods. For example, value added method, where we are adding all the value which is added by each economic activity for all the sectors of economy. And then we have the income method, where we are adding all the income which is generated by the 4 factors of production, that is land, labor, capital and entrepreneurship entrepreneurship. For land, we get rent. For labor, we get wages. For the capital, we are getting interest. And for entrepreneurship, we are getting profits. Then we have the expenditure method, where we are adding the expenditure which is done by the households, that is household consumption expenditure, plus private investment, plus government spending, and then net of exports. So whatever the privates are investing in the economy, that also contribute in the GDP growth rate and ultimately economic growth rate. Here in the value added method, whatever the value that has been added at each stage of production for all the economic activity and for all the sector of economy, when that is accumulated, when that is added, we get the GDP by the value added method. Similarly, when the person was having the low incomes that we were discussing here, he will have or she will have the low level of education as well as healthcare facilities, and that may lead to high IMR or MMR, all the malnutrition in the society, in the child. And when malnutrition will be there, proper nutritional needs will not be fulfilled. That might also impact the cognitive abilities of the child, and that will also lead to low level of human capital, because child or the young person did not get proper educational facilities. He also didn't get proper skill sets, and that will lead to low productivity. The person will not get proper jobs, and when he will not be getting proper jobs, obviously his productivity will be less. And that is also getting reflected from India Skills Report of 2025, that says that around 54.8% of the population is unemployable because of the poor skill sets that they have, and that will further lead to low income of the people, because they do not have that educational capabilities, they do not have that skills that is needed, based on which they can improve their productivity and they can improve their income. But when we talk about the extreme poverty that Kerala has eradicated in India, as per Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, it has declined to 2.2% in 2022-23. And who are extremely poor, the people who are living at least $1.90 at PPP rate or purchasing power parity rate, or less than that, they will be categorized as extremely poor. And this rate has declined to 2.2% in 2022-23 as per this data of Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. But still, there are some cases where we can witness the extreme poverty that is still present in India. For example, after it was mandated to link ration card with the Aadhaar card. So what happens under the National Food Security Act 2013, which provides the legal guarantee for the people under the Antyodaya Anna Yojana beneficiaries to get 35 kg of ration and priority households to get 5 kg of rations. But earlier, what was happening, the eligible beneficiaries were getting without proper authentication. And when the Aadhaar was linked with this ration card, now it is mandatory to sell this particular ration at the subsidized rate only by biometric authentication. That is with the help of the point of sale machines. That person who is eligible to get the ration, he will be coming at the fair price shops. He will be using his biometric details, and after that authentication, the person will be getting the ration cards. This is to address the issue of ghost beneficiaries and corruptions that is involved in the public distribution system. But there are a lot of issues. For example, in 2017-18, there were allegations that there was a family, there was a girl that died because of hunger, because she was denied ration card because she didn't have the proper Aadhaar details, and that is the reason the biometric authentication could not be done. So this also shows the digital poverty at which we are living, the infrastructural gaps that are there, digital divide that is there. Or even the people who are coming from the rural background will be understanding that the people who are the manual workers or who are working in the rural areas, these biometric details of those persons gets impacted. And if at that point of sale machine iris scanner is not available, that person might also not be able to authenticate biometric details. So these are some of the implementational challenges that also leads to severe crisis. Now, if we look into the history of poverty estimation in India, before independence itself, Dadabhai Naoroji's poverty line that came in 1861, he was one of the first persons to be the part of the British Parliament, and he estimated poverty at 16 rupees to 35 rupees per capita per year, and that too at 1867-68 prices. And this was based on the basic needs like food, clothing, shelter, etc., whether people are able to access or fulfill these basic needs or not. And he also gave the drain of wealth theory. And then we have the National Planning Committee, which came in Haripura session of Gujarat in 1938, and this was led by Subhash Chandra Bose. They also recommended the minimum standard of living. After that, Bombay Plan that came in 1944, that also suggested a poverty line of 75 rupees per capita per year. Then we have the working group under the Planning Commission 1962. They defined poverty via the consumption, whatever the food consumption, the basket under which the food commodities were kept, and what was the consumption pattern in rural areas, urban areas. And then 100 rupees per month per household or 20 rupees per capita at 1960-61 prices. Then we have the Dandekar and Rath committee that came in 1971 that used the NSS data, and it was first time that calorie norms were kept for defining the poverty. For example, 2250 kilocalorie per day, rural poverty line at 17 rupees per month. So if there is a question that is coming in your prelims examination, that which was the first committee that came with the calorie based poverty estimation, that was the Dandekar and Rath committee. Then we have the Alag committee that came in 1979. They set the separate rural and urban poverty lines that was based on the nutritional linked consumption, and it also introduced the inflation adjustment to reflect the changing prices in the commodities. Then we have the Lakadwala committee that came in 1993. They continued with the calorie based method. Also they developed the state specific poverty lines using the CPI for industrial workers and CPI for agricultural laborers. And then we have the Tendulkar committee that came in 2009, and they shifted to broader consumption baskets. That is, they included the health indicators, educational facilities, whatever the expenditure on health and education is being done. And they set 2004-5 poverty line that was at rupees 446.68 rupees, that is the bare minimum level in rural areas, and 578.80 rupees in urban areas. And at purchasing power parity rate, it is the 33 rupees per day, and as per them it was 21.9% that was the poverty rate at that point of time in 2009. Then we have the Rangarajan committee that came in 2014. It was based on the revised nutritional and behavioral norms, 32 rupees per day in rural areas, 47 rupees per day in urban areas, and they gave the poverty line at 29.5%, the poverty rate at 29.5%, and this was rejected by the government. And then we have the multidimensional poverty index. At global level it is released by the UNDP, and in India at national level it is released by the Niti Aayog, and it uses the UNDP OPHI framework. It also captures the non-income dimensions like the health, educational, living standards, what is the expenditure that is being done on them. Plus whether the people have the educational facilities, health facilities, or they have the minimum basic standard of living. Are they living in those standards or not? So there are more than 10 parameters which are kept under this education, health and living standards. Then we have the periodic labor force survey. Since 2017 they are giving the data regarding poverty as well as employment, unemployment, labor force participation rate. Now, why exactly the poverty still remains a concern? First of all, the regional disparities that are witnessed. For example, the poverty which is still very high in the northern states like Bihar, Jharkhand, Meghalaya, Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, as compared to southern states which has achieved these feats because they have significantly focused on improving the human capital, identifying the people, the targeted beneficiaries. For example, after this current government of Kerala, when they came for the second time, they launched a dedicated scheme to address this issue of extreme poverty, where they have identified the people who do not have the proper shelter, who are living in extreme poverty, and they revised that list multiple times. So that helped in targeting the real beneficiaries or the people who are in actual needs. And then they have ensured that whatever the government schemes are there, they are provided to them properly. So this regional disparities across the states needs to be addressed. And then we have the health inequality. For example, the out of pocket expenditure, that is very high, that is around 53.2% in 2018-19 if you look up to this data from National Health Account Estimates of India 2018-19. Also, when the out of pocket expenditure is very high whenever any case of health emergency is happening, for example the COVID-19 pandemic came, or the issues with regard to the increased disease burden with the climate change that is also fueling the rising cases of new diseases that are happening, and that too they are grappling the people in the rural areas as well as the poor people. So already the people did not, or the persons do not have the proper money or the less income, and whenever they are falling ill or they need to fulfill certain health emergencies, that will also take a toll on their pocket, and that may also further perish them into poverty. Or let's try to understand this in another manner. If there was a person who was a construction worker, he was already getting very less daily wage, and if he will be suffering from any illness or sickness, this source of income will be stopped, and that will further lead to that person being perished in poverty. Or when the people are not having the proper social security benefits in the form of health insurance, that is also witnessed in the form of the poor insurance penetration and the density that India is having. Then when the social security benefits are not there, health insurance is not there, again further the people will have to spend their health expenses from their own pocket, and that will lead to further perishing them into poverty. Or the education and the skill gaps that remain. For example, as per ASER 2014 that is released by NGO Pratham, around 45.8% of class 8th students could not solve the basic arithmetic sums, and that shows the poor educational outcomes that these people are having. Or the India Skills report that we were discussing, that shows that 54.8% is the population which is not employable because of the poor skills that they have. Then the climate vulnerability. For example, as per certain estimates, the Amphan cyclone that came in 2020 that displaced around 2.4 million population. Or the COVID-19 pandemic that came, or the increased cases of droughts or incessant rainfall that we witnessed. For example, recently the Marathwada region of Maharashtra, which has been one of the area which were not getting proper rainfall in last few years, was battling with floods. And as per the Maharashtra minister, agriculture minister, he said that more than 1 crore hectare of the cropland is affected by that floods. So when the drought conditions are increasing, cases of incessant rainfall is increasing, again the income of the persons are getting impacted. For example, as per National Situational Assessment Survey, the farmers' income are around 10,218 rupees only. And when these kind of the climate change issues are further increasing and the agricultural productivity is declining, or increased cases of pest attacks etc. in the form of locust attack are being witnessed, that impacts the productivity of farms. And when a significant amount of population is dependent on the agriculture, when their productivity is declining, when their income is declining, will further see the consistent high poverty in India. Or the rising inequality amid the growth, that India is consistently achieving the feat of 6 to 7% of economic growth. But this growth is not even. We are not achieving the inclusive growth, or development is not being witnessed. Growth is the quantitative aspect, whereas development is the qualitative aspects, that whether this inclusive growth, are we witnessing the inclusive growth or not. For example, that whether that growth is equitable across different communities, across different areas or not. For example, Oxfam report says that top 1% of the population holds more than 40% of wealth. That shows that this growth is being cornered, or majority of the fruits of growth is being cornered by a small chunk of population. Then the employment crisis and the informal sectors. For example, the unemployment rate is around 7 to 8% as per Center for Monitoring Indian Economy, plus around 80% of the employment is in informal sector. Rising cases of the employment in the gig economy is again one of the factors that we are witnessing. Any of the delivery executive, if he or she is losing their lives on road because of the accidents, and when he or she is not having proper social security benefits, or the health insurance facilities are not extended to them, that may further create a problem where they might have to battle with poverty in future. Also, the rural poverty and the agriculture. For example, 16.1% is the contribution of agriculture in GDP as per Economic Survey 2025. Plus, the 46.1% is the employment generation by the agriculture. More than 70% of the rural households are dependent on the agriculture itself. Plus, if you look into the size of small and marginal farmers, it is around 86%. That they have around 1.08 hectare per capita land availability. That shows that despite a significant amount of population dependent on the agriculture, but because they do not have proper land, and that this will also reduce the mechanization of agriculture, which is around 40% in India, then that will not help them to achieve economy of scale, and majority of this agriculture is being done for own consumption and it is not the commercial agriculture. That is, and when again the climate change related issues are increasing, the soil fertility is declining, and if monsoon is not coming in a proper manner, that will further perish them into poverty. Also, the urban poverty and slums. For example, as per 2011 census, there are around 65 million people who are living in slums, and there are more than 1 million slums in India, where they do not have even the proper basic facilities like the sanitation facilities, potable water facilities, electricity connections are not there, and where they are not living in proper hygienic conditions. That also leads to increased cases of the communicable diseases, and that further perishes them into poverty. Also, this rural urban poverty differences or the divide that you can witness from this particular data, where it says that from World Bank report of 2025, the rural extreme poverty has declined to 2.8%, whereas the urban extreme poverty is still at 1.1%. So you can see the difference between the rural and the urban extreme poverty. But this gap is slowly and gradually declining. It was 7.7% in 2011-12, and it is only 1.7% in 2022-23. Plus, the poverty is not only about the basic resources. Poverty is not only about the income. It has several other facets. For example, whether we can say the period poverty, where all the adolescent girls are having the proper hygienic menstrual facilities, menstrual products or not. And as per the NFHS 5, 27% is the population, young rural women, they still resort to the unsanitary means of protection during the menstrual cycle. Or if we talk about the financial poverty, that shows the financial literacy among the population. That says, as per National Center for Financial Inclusion, that says that 27% is the population which is financially literate. And then again, if you see the data of digital divide, that can be also witnessed in the form of internet density, that is in rural areas 45.03 per 100 population, whereas in urban areas it is 1110.79 per 100 population, and it is nearing saturation. So that shows that this poverty or the lack of basic resources is not limited to any one dimension. Rather, it is expanded across different dimensions, be it the availability of the menstrual products in the form of period poverty, or in the form of financial literacy, or in the form of digital literacy. So what is the mechanism with the help of which we can address this particular challenge of poverty? First of all, we need to expand the quality education, because this will help us in improving the human capital. The employability of these persons will be improved, and they can invest whatever the income that they are getting with the help of better educational, with the help of better employment facilities. So the universal education with the help of the Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan, or the National Education Policy 2020, that is also focusing on skill-based learning, earning while learning, that is also focusing the idea of the Gandhiji's education. So that needs to be promoted, so that the people, whatever the education they are getting, they are able to get proper jobs on with the help of that. And that is the reason there is need for proper industry academia linkages. Academia or the curriculum is updated according to the needs of industry. For example, as of now, industry is demanding artificial intelligence, machine learning, big data analytics. So our curriculum needs to be updated according to that. Then we also need to diversify the rural livelihoods. For example, the agricultural dependence needs to be reduced, and that is the reason government is focusing on MSMEs, which contributes around 30% to GDP. And we also need to focus on the skill-based Manrega. For example, whatever the jobs that are being provided to the Manrega workers, they are mainly unskilled work. So skill-based workers should be also incorporated under the Manrega. Then we have the National Rural Livelihood Mission. They can be also expanded. We can also promote the allied sectors like dairy, fisheries, etc. so that the people who are dependent on the agriculture, they can get better jobs under this particular allied sectors. And that is the reason government expanded this Kisan credit card to the allied sectors also, so that the issue of the finances or the capital can be addressed. Also, this Kisan credit card scheme, the limit under this Kisan credit card was earlier 3 lakh rupees, and it is expanded to 5 lakh rupees under the budget of 2025-26. It provides short-term credit needs to the farmers. Then we have the strengthening the social protection. For example, the direct benefit transfers in the form of direct benefit support or direct support measure, Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi, under which the 6,000 rupees is provided in 3 equal installments of 2,000 rupees each. All the land holding farmers are eligible to this, and that is the reason now it has been linked to the farmer's ID, because earlier there were a lot of ghost beneficiaries who did not have the land and still they were getting the benefits of PM Kisan. Under the farmer ID, all the farmers, they have under this, the details of the farmers along with their land details are there in the farmer ID. When it has been linked to the PM Kisan, all the land holding farmers will be getting the benefits of the PM Kisan. Also, with the help of the farmer's ID, where it is giving an idea whether the farmer has the land holding, whether they have already taken some loan on that or not, and that will also help in facilitating the institutional delivery of credit. Plus the Pradhan Mantri Dhan Dhanya Krishi Yojana, which was launched recently in budget 25-26, that is also focusing on some of the poor districts where the crop density is low, crop intensity is low, where the institutional credit delivery is low, productivity is low. Plus the Atmanirbhar Bharat on pulses to make India self-sufficient in pulses, which is one of the important food that is used for the protein sources by the poor. So all these are the recent measures that government is taking to address the nutritional needs, to address the needs of the people. Plus the Ayushman Bharat scheme, which was one of the world's largest schemes, that is providing the health facilities, especially for the tertiary care. Then the universal public distribution system, better targeting. We can also provide the shock resilience for poor. Plus the universal basic income, which was one of the idea floated by Economic Survey of 2017. That can be one of the food of thought that can be also expanded. Then we need to deepen the financial inclusion. For example, Jan Dhan needs to be expanded. Financial literacy, for example, overdraft facility which were part of this Jan Dhan, that is not being utilized properly, that can be utilized. Financial literacy can be improved with the help of onboarding several role models, or with the help of better awareness generation in the form of social media campaigns that can happen. Or the NABARD can further extend the low interest credit, especially to the agriculture and allied sectors. Then we need to focus on the skilling for the employment generation. For example, Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana, under which the 4.0 was launched with the industry 4.0 needs. There needs to be properly expanded, plus there should be a proper oversight mechanism that whether the proper skill sets are being given or not. Plus the Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister floated an idea that India need a skill census where we are properly matching the skill sets with the population so that we can provide them proper jobs. Also, the labor intensive sectors like textiles, manufacturing needs to be further focused so that they can provide proper employment to a large chunk of population. Then we also need to combat the hunger and malnutrition. It is not the food security that is the need of our, but nutritional security needs to be focused on. And especially we can focus on the areas which are poor in IMR, MMR and malnutrition. And that is one of the idea that was focusing under the aspirational district program, which was launched by Niti Aayog. Then we need to empower the women and vulnerable groups to address the issue of the labor force participation. For example, 41% is the labor force participation rate of women as per PLFS of 2023-24. Also, the gender budgeting, which is incorporated in budgeting. Then we also need to bridge the labor participation gap, and for them that is the needed. We need to provide them proper educational facilities. We also need to dismantle the gender stereotypes, patriarchy. Also, women-led entrepreneurship needs to be promoted, and that was one of the idea which is being fulfilled by the Stand Up India scheme. Then we also need to promote the climate resilient livelihoods with the help of Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana. Coverage and payout needs to be expanded. Agroforestry, solar irrigation with the help of schemes like Pradhan Mantri Kusum or Pradhan Mantri Kisi Sichai Yojana, which is further helping in providing the proper support to the farmers for the irrigational needs. Jal Shakti Abhiyan, drought and flood adaptation, all these needs to be expanded. Then also we need to revitalize the MSMEs because they are the engine of growth, and that is one of the engine which the budget 25-26 is focusing on. We need to provide them proper credit, especially the working capital needs to be fulfilled. Also, we need to give them proper training awareness with regard to the sanitary and the phytosanitary measures or the parameters that needs to be followed, and that can make them more globally competitive. Then we also need to balance the urban and rural development. For example, one district, one product clusters can be developed so that these rural areas which have some niche products, they can be also expanded to the global markets. Then we also need to bridge the digital divide. The BharatNet project should be rolled out holistically, especially in the unserved and underserved areas. Digital literacy drives can be expanded, plus e-Shram portal that is helping in properly giving the registration facilities to the informal sector. They also needs to be continuously updated. Also, we can design the region specific poverty strategies. For example, let's suppose every year the Bihar is battling with floods, out of the floods that is coming from the Koshi river, or Assam which is again battling with the floods. So we can make the plans according to the needs of that area. Or we also need to leverage the public private partnership models for the welfare delivery. For example, Akshay Patra Foundation that is helping in addressing the food needs. They are distribute free foods. Similarly, we can also use the CSR funding, under which section 135 of Companies Act mandates that 2% of the profits of company needs to be spended on the improvement of the social sectors. For example, let's suppose educational facilities, health facilities, etc. So that corporate social responsibility funds can be also utilized for further improving on the welfare delivery. And this is a mains practice question that you people can write from this particular topic. Next topic is Stampedes, and the context of this topic is that a recent stampede at Srikakulam temple led to deaths of 9 devotees, and this particular topic is related to your GS paper 3 disaster management. In last few months, India has seen several stampedes. For example, in February 2025, there were cases of stampedes at New Delhi railway station, or during the Kumbh Mela also there were cases of stampedes, or during the RCB winning celebrations at Chinnaswamy Stadium, or the TVK, which is a political party in southern India, the rally in which several people died because of the stampede. So it is an impulsive mass movement, and it is because of the disruption of orderly movement of crowd that leads to the injuries and fatalities. For example, let's suppose there is a railway station where there is a rail or the train that is there on the platform, and everyone is there in their queues properly, and they are waiting for their times to come, and then they will be boarding this train. But what if there is a rumor that spreads that there is a bridge that is collapsing, or train is just going to leave within few minutes itself, or the platform is being changed of that particular train? In that case, this orderly movement might be disrupted, and that may lead to this cases of the stampedes. So why exactly stampedes kill? It is because of the traumatic asphyxia, which leads to the partial or the complete cessation of respiration due to the external compression, especially on the chest areas or near the chest areas that impacts the lungs and hearts, or the myocardial infarction that is also called as heart attack. So it is the death of heart muscle tissue due to lack of oxygen that is caused by the blockage in the coronary artery, and especially because of the compression, external compression, this particular myocardial infarction can happen. Now what exactly happens? Let's suppose someone, because of this disruption in the orderly movement, just fell on the ground. Now other people, if they are not considering about this person and just they are trying to move outside from this particular situation, so they might be keeping their legs on the chest of this person, on the body of that person. That might lead to these conditions, and that person unfortunately might lose his or her life. Now, in last few years, we have seen major stampedes. For example, 39 people died in August 27, 2003. That was in the Kumbh Mela in Nasik, Maharashtra. 340 people died in 2005, again in Mahadhar Devi temple in Satara, Maharashtra. Then again 250 people dead in 2008 in Chamunda Devi temple in Jodhpur, Rajasthan. And then a similar incident happened in Bilaspur or in Pratapgarh district of Uttar Pradesh. Similarly, in Haridwar at Har Ki Pairi, again there were 20 people died in 2011. If you look up to the recent data, in 2022 at Mata Vaishno Devi Shrine in Jammu and Kashmir, there were 12 people who died. Or recently in Hathras district of Uttar Pradesh, again several people died because of the stampede like situation that happened. Now it is because of the poor crowd management. Why? What does this mean? That whether we have done proper capacity planning or not. For example, what we are witnessing that a huge portion of these stampede incidents are happening in the temple areas. It is because of these temples are ancient and they are not built according to the needs of the 21st century. That they have the smaller garbhagriha and everyone wants to just visit that garbhagriha or have a look of the main deity. And in that particular condition, if there will be too much of crowd and that crowd will not be managed properly, everyone will be coming into the smaller area of the temple, that might lead to the disruption in the orderly movement. Or if the risk assessment is being not done. For example, this was the Ekadashi and where a lot of people wants to visit the temple. Now if this assessment was not done by the temple administration and they didn't inform the police personnel properly, and because of which the proper crowd management could not happen, and that led to loss of life of people. Also, incident response, that once the stampede happened, whether there is proper support that is reaching in time bound manner or not. If that temple or that area where the situation or the incident happened, if that is in the smaller lanes where even the ambulance cannot reach, in that case obviously the incident's response will also be impacted. So for a proper crowd management, we need proper capacity planning. That planning or the clearances are given according to that particular structure itself. We are also doing proper risk assessment according to the crowd that might come. Plus the incident's response should be also pre-prepared properly. The fire safety measures, the ambulances, etc. needs to be on standby so that in case of any contingency, they can reach on time. What are the constitutional and legal provisions that is related to crowd management? First important is the Article 19(1) subclause B that provide right to assemble peacefully without arms, which is a fundamental rights under part 3 of the constitution. But there are certain restrictions which are provided under Article 19 subclause 3, and these are the reasonable restrictions, and that is the reason we say that fundamental rights are qualified in nature, they are not absolute. What are those restrictions? They are sovereignty and integrity of the state, that is public order, that is again one of the reasonable restrictions, that this right might be violated because of these reasonable restrictions like sovereignty and integrity as well as the public order. Then the Police Act of 1861, it provides conditions that may be laid for regulating lawful procession. Public inconvenience should not happen, and accordingly the police personnel can be deployed on that particular procession or that particular rally for which the clearances are being sought. And then the Disaster Management Act of 2005 that deals with the vehicular and human traffic, other areas related to crowd management, and this was widely used especially in the COVID-19 lockdown restrictions or the quarantine measures which were used. Now what exactly leads to the stampede? First of all, it always takes place during the mass gatherings. Plus it is triggered or made worse by the panic situation, that everyone, if they are having this idea that they might lose their life, or if any rumor or fake news just comes in that crowd, that gives them an idea that they might lose their lives, and in that panic situation they just don't think any other thing and they just want to save their lives, and that is the reason they just start running here and there. Also these panic producing situations, and because of the cooperative pattern of behavior is disturbed, that earlier when everyone was in that queue properly, they were cooperating with each other, they were having that proper, they were maintaining proper distance. But when the panic is produced, that cooperative behavior will be disturbed, and that will lead to disorderly movement, and that might lead to people losing their lives. And Neil J. Smulser says that the major trigger for this disorderly inorderly movement is the craze. For example, let's suppose in the Hathras incident that happened few months back, whoever was the godman, everyone just want to have a look of that godman, or he or she wanted to touch that godman. Or even in the case of the big celebrations that happen, where the big musicians or the actors etc. comes and they perform, in that case also, when everyone wants to touch that particular actor or musician, in that case also, this craze is also one of the important factor that leads to the triggering of this disorderly movement, inorderly movement, and that leads to loss of life of people. Also, it might happen because of the structural failure, human errors, or natural calamity. For example, Elphinstone Bridge collapse that happened, that is mainly because of the huge rainfall that happened within few hours, and that again led to a huge population reaching to that foot over bridge, and that created a panic kind of situation. And within this panic or excitement, evacuation or crowding might happen, that if there is proper planning, the people might be evacuated, or if there will be too much of overcrowding, and that might also lead to the crush disasters, or suffocation, or trample disasters. Or it might also be forced by the circumstances because of the space and time. For example, let's suppose there were 5 doors from which the people can get outside, but if 4 doors were closed, that might lead to overcrowding at any one door itself, and that might lead to stampede like situation. Or this particular panic or the excitement situation, that might be fueled by increased attendance level, or the action of performer, that they started dancing, the performers started dancing and people also started dancing, in that case further excitement. And when someone just fainted because of increased heat etc., that might lead to again cases of the stampedes. Now, other factors that are contributing to the stampede, first of all, the lack of light, and that impacts the crowd flow. For example, if the electricity failures happen, or if just to give that vibe in that particular hall, or in that particular music show or the fest that is organized, in that case, if there is no proper light, then people find it very difficult to be in that orderly movement, and that might also lead to, or that might also contribute to stampede. Or if there is collapse of barriers or buildings, again it may create a situation where the people might feel, or people might panic that other structures might also fall, and that may also contribute to stampede. Or if there are block exits or evacuation routes, the example that I gave you, that if there are 5 evacuation doors or exit doors, 4 are closed, 4 are not properly functioning, people might be coming to any one particular door itself, that might also contribute to stampede. Or the poor design of hardware, let's suppose there is a foot over bridge, if that is not being made according to the needs of heavy crowds, if it might collapse if there are a lot of people that are coming on that particular overbridge at any one point of time itself. And if there will be even small failures, that might create a panic, and that can lead to a situation of stampede. Or the fire hazards, that if there are situations of the fires, especially in the commercial establishments, especially for example Upahar cinema hazard that happened, that led to loss of life of several persons. So if there are no proper evacuation routes, if there are block exits, and if there are further fire hazards, that might also further contribute to the stampede situation. There are some guidelines by the NDMA, for example, for law enforcement agencies like police personals, NDMCs, etc., that regulations of vehicular traffic needs to be done, regulation of unauthorized stalls parking needs to be done, so that the space that is there for the movement of the people, they are not blocked. Also, for organization, there should be a proper route map and emergency kits that needs to be kept. Barricading needs to be done properly. CCTV cameras needs to be installed so that we can have a proper monitoring. Research and medical emergency services also needs to be kept on standby. For participants, they need to follow the instructions instructions properly, especially of the organizer. Also, they needs to stay away and from the heavy crowd. Also, they need to show a proper calmness, alertness whenever they are in that crowded place. Now, what exactly should be done? What is the need of our base with the help of which we can minimize these cases or the loss of lives? For example, the human stampede risk reduction framework for mass gathering occurrences that provides that decision to hold the event should be based on that whether event is religious, entertainment related or the political. Accordingly, needs can be planned. Also, what is the duration of the events that needs to be told to the law enforcement agencies properly. Also, whether this particular event is indoor or outdoor, because if the event is outdoor, the evacuation plans etc. will be easier. Also, the location, whether it is located near to the markets or other crowded places like schools or not. And then the historical incidences or facilities, if that place, if at that particular place there are certain other incidents that already had happened. For example, if we already know that at NDLS railway station in the month of February 25 there was a stampede happened recently on account of Chhath Puja, that when a huge population was going back to their homes, there were again a very heavy crowd that was witnessed at NDLS. But because of the learnings that they had from the historical incident, the planning was better, plus the management of crowd was better as at NDLS railway station. Then for event approval, the capacity of organizers needs to be evaluated. We also need to see the expected crowd size that needs to be provided properly. Site visit by the law enforcement personnel should be ensured. Safety measures needs to be maintained properly. Licensing and permits etc. related to fire, electricity etc. needs to be given in a proper manner. Then the risk assessment also needs to be done. For example, crowd mood and age group needs to be seen properly. The spectators and their characteristics also needs to be seen, that if there is a huge young population plus performer is also very highly energetic, so that needs to be assessed properly. Weather and natural hazards, that if the what is the weather forecast, that if there can be some rainfall that might happen, and if that is in outdoor, so that also needs to be accounted. Plus analysis of previous incidents should be done properly. What was the cause, what was the trigger, what was the response time, what is the learning that we can take from that. Plus accidents and intentional acts also needs to be properly identified and punitive actions should be taken against them. Also, integrated planning, available resource estimations should be seen, plus the crowd density monitoring that also needs to be done with the proper CCTV cameras etc. Surge of people management, that if there is huge surge, so the initial areas from where the people are coming, they can be blocked, or for some movements the entry can be stopped or they can be regulated. The competition control, bottleneck release, emergency services, evacuation plans all needs to be properly maintained. Then for risk reduction measures, we should have a proper control room with proper monitoring, proper oversight, plus live surveillance should be done, and that is the reason, for example, AI based monitoring was being done in the Kumbh Mela. Also, venue layout and signboards should be provided properly so that people are not confused and they can move to their desired locations. Public addressing system should be properly done so that people can be made alert with regard to any contingency that might arise. Safeguard and barriers should be provided. Medical care team should be at that particular spot. Plus exercise and review previously should be done so that in case of any contingency, the evacuation plan can be given in a proper and timely manner. This is a mains practice question that you people can write from this topic. Next topic is, how is Australia setting standards on training AI? This is related to your GS paper 3, awareness in the fields of IT, and this has appeared in today's The Hindu page number 11. So on October 27, the Attorney General of United States rejected the proposals by country's own think tank that granted or that sought to grant the technology companies unchecked rights to mine the copyrighted content for training the artificial intelligence. For example, let's suppose there is this ChatGPT from OpenAI, or there is this DeepSeek, Gemini, etc. Now, these are the AI platforms. Let's suppose there is a copyrighted picture. There is a company or there is a media house who had the copyright on this particular picture. You can just take a screenshot of this particular picture and you can give to this AI platforms, and you can just ask them, you can give them a prompt to extract the content from that particular picture. You are using that copyrighted content, but now you have changed the font size, you have changed the color, you have changed the look and feel of that particular picture. That particular media house is not getting any benefit from the copyright that they had. So this balance or the dilemma that world is facing, that whether we should support these new age technologies, whether we should support the creators economy, or which is also called as the orange economy, or we should also support the cultural and the media houses. For example, let's suppose there is a new startup or new page which is creating AI stories, but they might use some stories on which some media houses or some person might have copyright earlier itself. So whether he should also share a particular amount of the benefits or the revenue that he or she is earning from that stories that they are creating with the help of AI. So whom we should support more? That is the dilemma that world is facing. So whatever the stance that Australia will be taking, that will be impacting whole world, that how tech giants like OpenAI, Google will be mining data, how they will be training their AI systems. And at the heart of this controversy is the question whether AI firms should be allowed to use the copyrighted materials like books, music, artworks and journalistic content to train their AI systems without obtaining the explicit permission from the creators. For example, if there is any book that is available in the PDF form, you can give that PDF. You can just ask these AI platforms to give the summary of that. So there was no explicit permission that was sought from that book owner. So this is the main dilemma that world is facing. Also, this issue came to head after the Productivity Commission in Australia, a government-backed independent agency which takes inputs from industry bodies and big tech firms, suggested and exemptions to existing copyright laws to mine text and data. And that is why, because they want to support the Australia's artistic economy. Also, this technology's advancement must not come at the expense of those who generate the culture AI seeks to emulate or understand, and that is what is being said by the cultural and the media houses. So what should be the way forward? That is the dilemma that world is facing. So as of now, the Australia's position signals that technology works best when it implies the human creativity rather than exploit it. So exploitation of this copyright content should not be done. Rather, it should be used in a productive manner. Plus, whatever the earning should be, they can be shared in a proper manner so that the growth of the innovation also remains at a robust level. Now, what exactly is the orange economy that India is also promoting with the help of summits like WAVES, etc., or the artistic economy? The design, new media, software, arts, heritage, these are the artistic economy that comes under this orange economy. When we are talking about the artificial intelligence, what we want to develop the framework that this AI is trusted, this AI is following some ethical principles. For example, it is responsible, that it is providing safeguard to the human rights, and it is protecting the data we are interested with. It is not leading to loss of privacy of the people. It is not leading to loss of dignity of the people. It is accountable, that is, it seeks and leverage feedback for continuous improvement. It is transparent, means it develop a transparent user experience to guide user through the machine-driven recommendation. Be transparent and about how we build our AI. It is not explicitly supporting any one website or any one company. It is empowering, means it promote economic growth and employment for our customers, their employees and society as a whole. It also empower our customers to use our AI responsibly. It is also inclusive, that it respect the societal values of all those impacted, not just those of the creators, means it is leading to the true welfare of the people. Next topic is right to marry, person of a choice integral to Article 21. This is related to your GS paper 2, fundamental rights, and this has appeared in today's Indian Express, page number 8. So asserting that right to marry a person of one's choice is integral to Article 21 under the part 3 of the Constitution that provides right to life and liberty. This was said by the Gujarat High Court, and they recently dismissed a man's petition seeking directions to the Anand police to lodge an FIR against the official who registered the marriage of his daughter a day after the interfaith conversion in Rajasthan earlier this year. So the father of the daughter said that because this interfaith conversion that happened because of the fraudulent means, and that is the reason there should be an FIR that should be lodged on the officials who registered the marriage of the daughter. But the judge said that the daughter of petition entered into marriage which is registered before the competent authority. The order read that under the Gujarat Freedom of Religion Act, conversion of religion actuated by fraud allurement or misrepresentation or by any other fraudulent means is committed, then offence should be registered. Here, no allegation or voice was raised by the daughter of the petitioner, and therefore the question does not arise to pass any direction. Also, they registered their marriages under the Special Marriage Act 1954, which provides for the registration of interfaith marriages. Also, Supreme Court in Hadia case that came way back in 2018 said that right to marry the person of one's choice is integral to right to life and liberty, and this was the question that was asked by UPSC in 2019. That which article of the Constitution of India safeguard one's right to marry persons of one's choice, that is Article 21. So you can see whatever the major observation is of the Supreme Court, they becomes the questions in the actual examination. Similarly, in various case laws, Supreme Court interpreted or gave various interpretation that what exactly right to life and liberty means. So in Sunil Batra versus Delhi Administration 1978, Supreme Court said that the meaning of life includes dignity, humane conditions, culture. Dignified life was said under the PUDR versus Union of India 1982 or Bandhua Mukti Morcha versus Union of India 1984, that if someone is not getting their payment, non-payment of wages shows the violation of Article 21, violation of dignified life. Bonded labor, they also violate the dignity, again it violates Article 21. Reputation also comes under Article 21 of right to life and liberty. So here life doesn't only means the life, it means dignified life. So if someone is someone's reputation is getting impacted, that he is not getting the dignified life. So in Subramaniam Swamy versus Union of India case of 2016, again Supreme Court said that reputation is part of dignity of the person and criminal defamation is valid in this case. Then livelihood, in Olga Telis versus BMC 1985, the right to livelihood is integral to life. The clean environment, MC Mehta versus Union of India 1987, right to pollution free air, water, surroundings, again that is part of Article 21. Euthanasia, right to die, Gyan Kaur versus State of Punjab 1996, or Aruna Sandbag case of 2011 that allowed for passive euthanasia, or Common Cause versus Union of India 2018, that again said that it is not only the life but the right to life or the living will or the passive euthanasia that was also recognized. Then right to health, again that is in Paschim Banga Khet Mazdoor Samiti versus State of West Bengal, that state must ensure that timely medical aid. Then again in this particular Article 21, which provided for the right to education, Unni Krishnan versus State of Andhra Pradesh, that provided education for 6 to 14 years, said that this is a fundamental rights. Or fair trial, that is again part of the right to life and liberty. Then right to privacy, which was said as part of the right to life and liberty under this particular case Puttaswamy judgment of 2017, and that was again one of the question. Then personal liberty, Maneka Gandhi versus Union of India, where the Supreme Court said that India, it is not only the procedure established by law, but due process of law, that law should be just, fair and reasonable. Death penalty, Bachchan Singh versus State of Punjab, that death only in rarest of rare cases should be given. And this question that is regarding the right to privacy is again asked in 2018 question, that right to privacy is protected as an intrinsic part of right to life and personal liberty. Which of the following is the Constitution? Which of the following in the Constitution of India correctly and appropriately imply the above statement? Please tell me the answer of this particular question in the comment box. Next topic is households piling on debt faster than creating assets. This is related to your GS paper 3, growth and development, and this has appeared in today's The Hindu page number 1. So the annual financial debt that is accumulated by Indian households has grown faster than their annual financial assets since the pre-pandemic year of 2019-20. An analysis by RBI has said this. Now we need to understand, let's suppose iPhone 17 Pro was launched, iPhone 17 was launched. A huge population bought this particular iPhone on EMIs. That will again support this idea that the liabilities of the people are rising. People are taking loans to buy the cars. People are taking loans to buy watches or certain other products for their own use. That also supports the idea of conspicuous consumption, that only to show in the society or without even fulfilling any substantial needs of the people. People are buying products only to show to the society, only to have certain status in the society. Also, the amount of financial assets that are added each year has grown grown to 48% between 2019 and 25, while the annual liabilities have grown to 102% over that period. Even as a percentage of GDP, the annual financial assets addition is lower this year than before the pandemic, where the annual liabilities added are higher. Also, a significant shift that has been seen, especially in the saving instruments, that people are now prioritizing mutual funds, which has become very popular instruments for households to invest their money, and that has one of the reason why their money has grown to around 35.6 lakh crore in year 2024-25. This is also one of the chart based on which you can see the rising debt in the households. Now, what exactly is the mutual funds? So there will be a mutual fund manager who will be pooling money from different investors, and investors can even give or deposit money in the smaller amount. So this mutual fund manager will be pooling money from different investors, and then they will be investing this money in different stocks. Obviously, they will not limiting the whole investment in any one company, in any one sector. Rather, they will keep it diversified to reduce the risk. Now, whatever the returns that they will be generating on whatever the investment that they have done in different stocks or equity, they will be passing on to the original investor in the same proportion on which they have earlier invested, and they will keep a small amount to with themselves as the mutual fund manager. Now, what are the benefits? It is affordable. People can invest in even the smaller amounts. Also, it is professionally managed. The people who are managing this are having a huge experience in that field. This is diversified across different companies, across different sectors, and also it is well regulated. Then we have the exchange traded fund or ETF, which is like a stock that it is tradable during the day, but it is also like a managed fund, like the mutual fund, that there will be again a fund manager who will be managing this, and this ETF is a diversified low cost way to invest. For example, Bharat 22 ETF, whenever you are buying one Bharat 22 ETF, that means you are buying the companies of these shares in the whatever the weight that was assigned to this particular ETF. So under this ETF, to ensure that risk is diversified, let's suppose you are investing your whole amount in Larsen and Turbo itself. Now, if there will be a significant decline in the stock of L&T, your money will also be getting the lower returns, or the amount that you have investment will also see a declining trend. But when it is diversified across different companies, now the cumulative return that these companies will be generating, that will be your return. So here obviously the risk is lower, but comparatively, as whatever you will be investing in stocks, in the stocks risk is higher, but the chances of returns are also higher, chances of losses are also very higher. But in ETF and mutual funds, the returns are to lower extent or moderate extent, whether it is the positive or the negative returns as compared to stocks, but it is well regulated, plus it is diversified, that ensures that your money is safe. Next topic is Manipur to export white rice variety to Japan. This is related to your GS paper 3 major crops and cropping pattern, and this has appeared in today's Indian Express page number 8. So Manipur is said to introduce an other variety of chakho, which is a white sticky rice, to the international market after successfully exporting the indigenous black sticky rice. Also, they will be starting with the trial export of 20 metric tons of white sticky rice. Also, chakho is a black rice variety that is grown in Manipur, and it is glutinous rice with a pleasant aroma and nutty flavor. It is considered one of the most healthiest superfoods due to several medicinal and nutritional values. For example, they are rich in antioxidants that helps in tackling the free radicals which might lead to cancer. Also, it is rich in protein, iron, fiber and other essential nutrients. The government of India awarded chakho black variety of geographical indication tagging in 2020, and also even as the white chakho has been around for a long time, it remains an unknown to the outside world, but it is being a few Southeast Asian countries are showing their interest owing to their stickiness and flavor due to flavor to be experimental with the making sushi, that they can be very useful in making sushi, which is a very popular cuisine in the Southeast Asian countries. Also, he said the agriculture department is dedicated to expand the cultivation of the area so that the export needs can be fulfilled. There are certain other rice varieties which are popular. For example, Kala Namak rice, which is majorly produced in Siddharthnagar district of Uttar Pradesh, and this is rich in iron and fiber. Similarly, red rice in Kerala, black rice Manipur, chakho that we were discussing, Navara rice in Kerala that also boosts immunity and improves digestion. Then Ambe Mohar rice in Maharashtra, that
that are light and easy to digest. Then we have the ponni rice, which are short grain, non-aromatic, that is again high in energy, easy to cook. Then we have Mulan Kajma rice in Tamil Nadu, that is traditional, non-aromatic, they are high in fiber and nutrients. Similarly, we have this Johar rice variety in Assam that is proven effective in managing the diabetes, and it is the indigenous rice variety. It is a special class of Sali rice of Assam that is cultivated over the centuries, and they have the nutritional and health benefits. They have good aroma, they have the presence of polyphenolic and flavonoid content, they are rich in antioxidant properties, plus it also is related to the historical or the cultural aspects also. For example, in Assamese Ramayana, which was written by Kaviraj Madhav Kandali, it was said that this Johar rice, which has a good aroma, was used to help in the Kumbhakaran to coming out of the sleep, because this was used by the Ravan to awake his brother Kumbhakaran from his deep sleep. So this is also the historical context that you can remember of this Johar rice, which is related to Assam. Next topic is Lucknow is now a UNESCO creative city of gastronomy. This is related to GS paper 1 Indian heritage and culture, and this has appeared in today's The Hindu page number 1. So Lucknow has been officially declared a UNESCO creative city of gastronomy during the 43 sessions of UNESCO General Conference currently underway at Samarkand, Uzbekistan. And this recognition is provided because of the city's centuries old Awadhi cuisine, living food traditions, for example kebabs or nihari, etc., which is very famous, the chaat, tikki, which are very famous of Awadh, and also the cultural heritage, which is very rich and diverse in this region. UP government said that it marks a milestone for the state, positioning it among the world's top gastronomic destination, and so causing how the food heritage can become a symbol. Also, this creative city status will strengthen the global outreach, promote food-based entrepreneurship, and encourage more sustainable tourism. So we need to understand that whenever this creative cities network gives recognition to any city, that helps in improving the cultural exchange, plus the value of that heritage gets the global recognition. That will also help in increasing the tourism. If you look into the other categories, for example crafts and folk art, under which the Jaipur got the designation. Similarly, under music we have the Varanasi and Chennai. For film we have Mumbai. For gastronomy, other cities, Hyderabad, which got status in 2019. Srinagar got status for crafts and folk art. Gwalior for music, Kozhikode for literature, and again Lucknow in 2025 for gastronomy. This is all from today's Analyst. Thank you very much. All the very best. Keep studying.